It's estimated that 1 out of 7 women experience postpartum depression or anxiety, but the information we have on the neurobiology of PPD is just comprised from just 20 papers. So how do we promote awareness about this struggle that affects between 10 and 20% of women at some point in their life? By talking about it openly and candidly. I've been involved with PK Akron since it was just this crazy idea that Anu wouldn't stop talking about. I was one of the first people he roped into helping him, and now I serve as vice president. As you can see, I recently had a baby, although that could have been all the Western fruit basket I ate that night. I love those gyros. So the man that is now my husband, when I met him, I was a single mom. I was hesitant to let Matthias meet my son, Holden, but when I saw how he dived into the parenting role, how he helped me accept and learn to understand Holden's autism diagnosis, he attended parenting classes and doctor's appointments, and the three of us just had so much fun goofing off together. I knew I wanted to see our little family grow. So we got married. And after a few years of not trying to get pregnant, which was pretty stressful, I mean, try checking an ovulation calendar on your phone, it doesn't exactly get you in the mood. But after at least one miscarriage and some tearful arguments, we thought about giving up on the whole idea. But then things started looking up. My best friend invited us to her beautiful Southern Californian wedding and resulted in a great trip for us, and the Cavs finally made it to the finals, which might have led us to our home run, so thanks, LeBron. Holden turned out to be an amazing big brother. It really could have gone either way. He talked about you to anyone who would listen. He smiled all the time, wrote stories about him at school, which was exceptionally exciting considering previously he was resistant to engaging in anything academic because of his crippling self-doubt. Wonder where he got that from. But not everything was great. My mom was fighting cancer, and watching the strongest woman I know suffer through chemo and radiation, leaving her frail, was startling. Besides that, Ewan decided he only wanted to breastfeed when we were both laying down horizontally. So we started feeding him formula out of convenience, and even though I pumped for every meal, I eventually dried up, which made me feel like a failure as a mother. And before long, I had to return to my day job as a school teacher, and there were a lot of changes that were being thrown at us that particular year. I felt like I was investing all my energy into other people's children, and I was too exhausted to enjoy my own. Oh, and it was around that time that my period returned with a vengeance. It might make some men in the audience uncomfortable that I talk about how I bleed from my crotch every month, but you're just gonna have to get used to it or get used to being uncomfortable. At a time when our basic human rights are being challenged, we need to be able to talk about basic biology without being embarrassed. Anyway, I had a solid week of PMS making me irritable, and then a solid week of bleeding, which made me weepy and exhausted. I was spending half of my life dealing with my period. I was very fortunate that my school district was able to grant me a leave of absence, and with a little cutting back, we'd be able to survive with a drop in income. But I felt like a failure as a feminist. As 21st century women, we're told that if we work hard enough and we want it bad enough, we can have it all. But we aren't automatically equipped to juggle it all. Before I talk to you about what helped me through this struggle, I want to talk about what didn't work. Pretending everything was fine. It caused me to isolate myself from the people who actually wanted to help me, and it caused me to bottle up all the stress in my life until I would explode. Number 2, alcohol. I realized that I didn't realize I was drinking more than usual. I just had a night while cooking, or drink while I was cooking dinner, with dinner, after dinner, and then a nightcap. So admitting that I was self-medicating was scary, and getting rid of that fuzzy, lightheaded feeling would leave me alone with my thoughts, which was pretty terrifying. So what did help me? Number 1, Pokemon. Yeah, I know how stupid that sounds. Pokemon Go has this streak feature that you get bonus points for playing every day, which meant I had to leave my house every day, which doesn't seem like a big deal until you are deep in the mom zone and you realize that you've been wearing the same spit-up stained yoga pants for 4 days because you haven't had to leave your house. It becomes pretty important at that point. So number 2, opening up to my doctor and not being too proud to see a therapist and take prescribed medication. Number 3, talking to other women about their experience. So many of us has been there and done that we want to help. And I have a feeling that it's more than 1 in 7 women who experience PPD. So maybe if we share our stories publicly, the scientific community would catch up too. Number 4, investing in myself. That doesn't just mean physical self-care, although this haircut was basically a miracle. Shout out to Chelsea at Apotheclaire. But basically engaging in the creative process on whatever base level you can, even if that's just cooking with a new ingredient. Number 5, nurturing the important relationships in my life. Finding one-on-one time with my older son separately and then with my husband has helped us all through this. I first gave this presentation a year ago, and things are much better. Mom's cancer-free. She's right over there. And I'm back in my classroom, but still the juggling is constant, and we're all dealing with this. I'm working on this amazing new project, which was directly inspired by all the incredible women who helped me get through these rough times, and also those who I met through the arts community. So Bechdel Fest, which will take place in May of 2019, is a film festival of only films that pass the Bechdel test, where each film must have at least 2 female characters who are given names and talk to each other about something other than a man. So you'd think that would be simple, but less than half of films produced commercially meet those requirements, and media focused towards children, ugh, yikes. As someone who is responsible for raising the next generation of white men, this really hits home for me. I want my boys to grow up in evaluating the stories of people who are nothing like them so that they empathize with people regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, ability, physical size, or any of the other stupid ways that we tend to categorize each other. Stories are important. It's what connects us as fellow human beings. If we can provide a platform for diverse storytellers, the future isn't just going to be tolerant, it will be kind. Before I had kids, I really felt like I had a great life. I traveled, I basically did whatever I wanted with my time. But I know now that then my life was flat. Now my life is more like a mountain range. Sure, we have to pedal really hard to get out of those valleys, but the view from the top is worth it. Thank you.